mix of health and really feeling like crap about myself. I really got to the point where physically I couldn't do a lot of stuff. The simple stuff like going out and doing yard work was exhausting. Doing things with my daughter, trying to keep up with her was exhausting. And there was a component of essentially looking at my life and saying, I don't want to die. My daughter was old enough. She looked at me probably about a month before I went to CrossFit. And she looked at me and she said, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. And I smiled, thought that's wonderful. And then she went, big and round. And I went, okay. I want her to be just like me, but I want her to be healthy and happy. That's the words I want, not big and round. When I work out, it really is, I don't want to say it's a spiritual experience, but it's quasi-spiritual in experience. You get to a point where you're really not in your logical thinking mind. You're in the moment. All you're thinking about is what's going on in that moment. You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about home, bills, stress, health. Anything that's not with you in that moment in that gym, or in the box, as I like to say in CrossFit, is not with you. Hey, little bear. What's up? In January of 1991, I was burned in a garage fire. We were draining gasoline out of a car to try and clean the tank out. Couldn't get a car to start. So our first step where we were at was get the tank empty so we could clean the fuel lines and do some repairs. And we drained it into a pan that was too small. We didn't realize how much gas we'd put in the car. 3 or 4 people had added gas over the course of 2 days and not communicated that. So once the plug was out of the tank, the gas was coming out, it overflowed the pan. We attempted to clean it up, thinking that we were just cleaning up spillage, but during this whole thing, there was more gas coming out of the car. As I tell the story, I always feel like people are like, well, you would know pretty quick the gas was coming out of the car. We kind of did, but within the time that I've told you this story, we had a fire. Hello. Hi, little bear. What happened was the gas puddled in the floor and moved towards the lower part of the floor, which is where there was a wood stove going for heat for the garage. And when somebody opened the door to step out and get a broom, it created a draft that sucked the fumes into the stove and exploded. When it ignited and exploded, I was standing toes into the edge of it anyway, so it engulfed me, and I knew where the doors were. I knew I needed to get out, so I just went straight through the gas. I slipped, fell down on my knees about halfway through in the gas, because gas is slippery. Didn't know that at the time, but it was a quick lesson. Got up, got out, dropped and rolled. Local hospital that life-flighted me to the burn unit at Chapel Hill in North Carolina. I was 85-90% third-degree burns, which in 91 they didn't expect me to live because of the survival rates at that time were pretty much nil. They called my mom, told her she had about 48 hours to get from Michigan to North Carolina to see me to say goodbye. And they expected within 72 hours I would be dead. One of the other people in the garage that was burned about the same as I was, he did pass away within the first 24 hours due to the severity of the burns. Within, I think, the first week, they decided to amputate because of the severity of the burns to my calf muscles. My feet were actually okay. They were one of the few areas that weren't burned really badly, but all the connective tissue was severely damaged. Tag, you're it!
No, we're not playing tag.
Well, that's how you play hide and seek. I tag you when I find you.
No, you have to find us and then you don't tag us. I tell you that time!
Being burned truly changed my life. I would not, if given that, what is it, Scrooge, Christmas Carol, let's go back and never have been burned, I wouldn't do it. Because the life that I've had from that has been truly, it's amazing. It's been a truly amazing life. I have seen things that I never would have seen and met people I never would have met and had amazing experiences that I never would have had. I never would have met my wife, and I can tell you, bar none, my wife is going to say is one of the best. She's going to be mad at me. She's one of the best people that's ever come into my life. She's an amazing person that I never would have met her, and I never would have been able to be with someone like her if I had not been burned and been through what I've been through. It just would not have happened. And so it's the most horrible thing that's ever happened to me, and it's truly the best thing that ever happened in my life, is to have experienced that trauma, that loss in that moment, and then have been able to build from that, to essentially have my life erased and be able to redraw it all.
Daddy got it.
It's been a huge positive for me because my daughter likes to go to the box and work out. And as a kid, I never did that. I never had that exposure. And I like that she's going to grow up in that environment. So I'm, beyond, for me, I'm kind of keyed to the idea of, I want her to spend the next 15 years around people that like their bodies and like working out and want to push themselves and challenge themselves and exceed on different levels, because that's what I was around after I got burned. And for me, being burned was almost like a second development stage because I had to learn to walk again and dress myself again and rebuild a life because my old life was gone. And I want her to start her life with that environment, those kinds of people, that support and that excitement and that lifestyle.
5. You started off not being able to do 1, now you just did 5. Rest.
Life is work, and a good life is work. And that's to wrap it all back into CrossFit, that's the analogy. CrossFit is life in a microcosm of, if you want to be successful, you have to go commit to doing it and sweat it out. Because if you just show up whenever you feel like it and you don't really put in a lot of work and you have somebody else lift all the weight for you, you will not be successful. And in the end, you will deteriorate. And life has been the same way. When I've put the effort in, it's gotten better. And when I've slacked off, it gets worse.
All
right, let me up.